Shalom, shalom. It's Brother Danal here. I got Brother Azrael with me today. I'll be adding to this lesson. Today's lesson is entitled, Can You Love Your Wife as Yourself? Right? Can you love your wife as yourself? First and foremost, we want to give our honor and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We do so by way of his son, who was an instrument of salvation for the nation of Israel, right? Um, yeah, man. So the title of this video is going to be "Can You Love Your Wife as Yourself?" Right? On this Friday, uh, we didn't do Think About It Thursday, but we coming to you for a Freestyle Friday, man, and that is what it's going to be. More so like a freestyle, right? I got a couple precepts. We're going to dive into it. And I'm gonna share a couple of things that I was thinking about today on the job site, right? Excuse me, right? Without further ado, let me pull up this precept, man. Shouldn't be a long one. I ain't got no extravagant video for everybody to watch, but it should be a good one, man. Jog people's minds, especially if you have a rib, fiance or girlfriend. You know, this would be a good video for you guys, right? This is Ephesians chapter 5 and 28. The brother can read this for me.
The book of Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 28. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself.
Right, man. Right. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. Love your wives as your own bodies. This is, growing up in school, we had something that they call the golden rule: treat others as you would ought to be treated, right? And it's kind of taking a book out of that page right here, right? So are meant to love their wives as their own bodies, pretty much as they love themselves. He that love his wife loveth himself, right? So you would cherish your wife the same way you would cherish yourself. The things you wouldn't consider doing yourself, um, you shouldn't consider your wife doing those things. The things you wouldn't put up with, the things you shouldn't expect your wife to put up with, right? Um, and that's kind of the direction we're going to move today. But I got a couple more precepts. I think I'm going to, let me see. Yeah. We're going to get one more precept, and then I'm going to, we're going to get into this thing full fledged. If I could pull that back on this. There it go. Let's go to First Peter. First Peter. A lot of brothers might not like this video. Just a disclaimer. A lot of brothers might not like this video, especially if you've been in this truth not that long, right? And you've been caught up with the whole idea of the man being the prize, which I'm not going to speak against that because I do believe that the Bible teaches that. But nonetheless, man, we got to do this, right? If you could bring this out.
Come on. 1 Peter 3 and 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge.
As being the prize, right? As being the prize, you want to do what? Read that one more time.
Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge.
Right. Keep reading.
Giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel.
Understanding that she is the weaker vessel. Weaker vessel meaning, women tend to be more emotional, more sensitive. They got hormones, things like that take place, that you have to what? Take into consideration. All right, keep reading.
And as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered.
That your what?
That your prayers be not hindered.
Because both of y'all are graced with this life, right? Both of you guys have experienced and received mercy from the Most High, right? And so with that being said, understand that she's not going to be perfect, just like you're not going to be perfect, brother, right? And you got to understand that, have that consideration, so your prayers are not hindered, right?
Which is crazy because, in the law, When you go back in the law, a man can shut down his wife's prayers, so to speak,
Or her vows, yeah.
or her vows, right? If she makes a vow before the Most High God and her husband finds out and is not pleased, a man can shut that down. But the way the Most High had it was that's the physical, but in the spiritual, that woman can, the way you treating that woman can shut your prayers down.
Come on, man.
So there's always checks and balances, man. What to the naked eye looks like misogynistic and patriarchal and anti-woman, to the eye spiritually there's a even balance, right?
Yo, and that's a very good point right there, to know that husbands, right? Um, you might have the the prize syndrome, right? Which, again, I'm not saying that the husband is not the prize. That's what the Bible speaks about. If you want to get technical, right? But understand that syndrome can cause you a lot. It can cause your prayers to be hindered, bro. So a lot of us out here, we're trying to do things, we're trying to elevate, we're trying to make things happen. We're praying to God for this, praying to God for that, and we're not honoring our wives as a weaker vessel. We're not dealing with her according to knowledge, right? We're not having proper consideration towards our wives. You know what I'm saying? And we wonder why, we're stagnant in life. We wonder why our prayers don't seem to get answered, why the prayers are hindered, right? Why we can't get off the ground, things of that nature, right? And a lot of that has to do with how you treat your wife. Again, man, it has to deal with how you treat people in general, but definitely your wife, the person that you go to bed with, go to sleep with that night, right? Now, I brought this up to say, right, that I was thinking today as I was at work, and I was just thinking, man, brothers, especially brothers in this truth, we don't have a sense of practicality. We come in this truth, we read the Bible, and we understand it as it's written, as like we were saying, that the men tend to be sounding like they're the prize when you read these scriptures about ruling and all of this stuff. And it got me thinking that the practicality of it has left, um, because we kind of been surprised at the fact that we're reading this Bible and it's more so geared towards the men, and the men is the ruler of the house and the leader of the house and things of that nature. And sometimes people can take it to their head, right? An example of having lack of practicality would be, like I said, man, brothers is not gonna like this, right? But I speak as a man when I say these things, and I speak them according to wisdom, right? So I was thinking, and I was like, man, you know, brothers, man, we really don't move with any type of wisdom when it comes to our women, because we take practicality out of it. This says to deal with them according to knowledge, meaning you got to know your wife. You got to know what makes her tick. You got to know, what things that she doesn't like, things like this, right? And you have to honor that, right? Giving honor to her because she's a weaker vessel with this knowledge, meaning that when you make decisions, it's with consideration of your wife, right? Not, you don't make decisions and you chop it up to, well, she got to deal with it, right? One example. I got two main examples. I'm a I'm gonna go with the easiest one first, cause you know what I'm saying. I don't want to turn brothers off too bad just yet, but let's talk about social media, right? Now we always talk about men, and you know, well, I guess these points are kind of one and the same, right? But I'll talk about it in different aspects. So we always talk about how men, when you read these scriptures, um, multiple of our fathers had multiple wives and things like this, right? But according to this, so the social media aspect of it is, brothers now will take that and have it as an excuse to do things that might not make their women the happiest, right? And we're gonna get into making your wife happy too, right? And living happily, because that's in the scriptures too. You know what I'm saying? But not to cater to her, kiss the ground that she walks on, nothing like that. But at the same time, man, we're not supposed to be adding strife to people's lives. And a lot of brothers, man, they take it upon themselves to do things that their women is just eating them up inside, right? Um, and I'm talking about things like liking other females' pictures, right? Especially if you're in the truth and you're liking other girls' pictures that are kind of raunchy, you know, those type of things, right? What can get somebody in trouble in their relationship, and you'll have a rocky start. And I'm speaking this out of maturity and experience when it comes
Period.
to experience when it comes to relationships. I tell people all the time, you want a successful relationship, get out of yourself, tell your partner to get out of their self, figure out what makes your partner tick, right? Let your partner knows what makes you tick. And the maturity of it is understanding that I'm gonna be mature enough to not do what makes her tick, and she's gonna be mature enough to not do what makes me tick, and we can live cohesively together, right? But a lot of times when we come to this truth, we get that I'm the prize syndrome, and we start doing things based off of, oh, because we can, and she got to deal with it. Not understanding that, yeah, brother, you can do what you want to do, but just understand you might not have the as much peace at home as you should have, right? Again, man, I'm saying brothers probably won't like this because at the end of the day, until you can get on a mature level of thinking, right? Not just about yourself, but your other half and life itself. Until you can get on that level, you're always going to be in the mindset of, oh, I can do what I want. It's not a sin. It's not a sin, right? That's why the scripture talks about a lot of things are lawful for me, but a lot of things are not expedient for you to do. You know what I'm saying? And so this is coming from experience. This is coming from a mature level of being in a relationship. I've been in a relationship 7 years now, right? Um, been married for 4, and these are just things I've been picking up on how to live more peacefully in your relationship, right? And so when you look at that, you got to understand, man. Even when it comes to multiple wives, right? So we talked about social media a little bit. Even when it comes to multiple wives, right? I know it's in the Bible. I know it's lawful, right? But do you know your wife? Do you know who you got married to, right? Because a lot of times you guys marry these girls, and especially when you're young into the truth, you really don't know what's going on for real. But you marry these girls that you know probably is not with multiple wives, right? And and it happens multiple ways. Sometimes people lead their women on to thinking that they would never get a second wife, or they never bring it up, right? That say that might be a future interest. Um, some people, right, they get them knowing that they're not okay with it, but they feel as if, well, I'm gonna get with her, and if we marry, there's nothing she could do about it, no way, right? And these are things that are happening that are causing discourses in relationship, and you know, one is a lack of communication. Two, you're not dealing with your wife according to the knowledge of who she is as a person, right? One thing about it, man, as we grow up in America, that's what I'm talking about, the practicality of it all, right? As you grow up in America, people have been raised they haven't been raised as an ancient people in the Bible, right? And so they don't have the same mindset. I don't care what girl you pick up, if they don't come into the marriage off rip letting you know they're down with it, bruh, 9 times out of 10 they got that westernized mindset. I'm not saying that's a good thing, right? But 9 times out of 10 they got that westernized mindset, and that's one thing that's just not going to change, right? You might find some that will tolerate it, you know what I'm saying, and you might find some that are genuinely okay with it. I'm not saying that that's not out there. I'm just saying 90% of the time that's not going to be the case. You know what I'm saying? Just dealing with practicality, and you have to understand and know what type of woman that you've married. right? And understand what type of problems that might bring into your relationship, and ask yourself, is it worth it? Right? Am I dealing with my wife according to knowledge? Am I giving honor to her as a weaker vessel? And because if I don't take that stuff into consideration and I bring all this on her, right, and strife on her and stress on her, right, she can't sleep at night. Understand the last part of the scripture says your prayer will be hindered, right? And it's not about, well, she got to deal with it because I'm not sinning. It's not a sin. I'm not in sin. If she doesn't accept it, then you know what I'm saying, she's in sin, right? Check it like this, right? Everybody has their vices. So, and I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying it's right, but a lot of women are not okay with that. And so when you bring that upon them, they start acting out. Just like if brothers have their own vices too, to where the point of, if you poke the bear at that vice, right, the brother might react a certain way that's not of God, right? But you wouldn't be able to, but you can't, nobody would go up to that brother and be like, "Oh, brother, you just not gonna make it." Everybody has their vices, you know what I'm saying? And so when somebody when somebody when a woman acts out because of that, because of this new type of a new way of life that you're bringing to her, um understand, man, that it's not because she doesn't love the Most High, but it's all foreign to her, right? This is not the mentality that she has had her 20 something years of life of living. And I understand they did it back in the day, and that's how things were intended to be. Of course, that's cool, right? But brother, like, I mean, and that's why I say it becomes a mature thing, because you got to weigh your options. Do you want to live peaceful and have a peaceful relationship? Or are you okay with bringing strife and contention in your relationship and drama, right?
Right. Compare that to counting the cost, right? Before you even, you know, can love your wife, you have to obtain a wife, right? And when you obtain a wife, you got to count the cost, right? You don't build a building without counting the cost of everything that'll go into
Right.
building that building. Now, some people may build that building kind of fast and cheap, but just know if you do that, you're gonna always be paying for a plumber to come through because you're gonna always have leaks because you've been paying for cheap work. You're gonna always have to have somebody keep coming out to check on the I don't know on the foundation, right? The strength of the walls, the attic. You pay for cheap work and you want it done quick, right? You got to expect that to happen. So just like in your relationships, man, stop making the hasty decision just to put up a relationship, just to put up a house, because you're going to end up having your prayers blocked when you're trying to have that relationship that um you know everybody is idolizing, right? There's some people that want to have certain relationships with certain people just so that they can be looked at from the outside as, oh, that brother blessed, or that brother got it together,
One
or
thing I one thing I'll say is this, man. Like the brother said, counting the cost. It's very simple, man. And I think people just don't take life that seriously as counting the cost before they make decisions, right? So before you make the decision to get married, and you in the back of your head you want multiple wives, you want to make sure you get you a wife that's okay with that off rip. Not that, don't assume, don't do none of that, man. Make sure you know for a fact that you get one, right? If it's taking a long time, who cares? Be patient until you find that one, because this ain't you can't really play Pokemon with this thing, right? Gotta catch them all. You can't go get one even though you know she's not gonna be okay with it, and then try to get another one. And I'm just speaking off of not really experience, but just secondhand experience, right? Because I know a lot of people that have tried this, and Not saying that these things can't work out, but the way people go about it, it leads them, they end up trying to get two, three wives, and they leave empty handed with none. You see it plenty of times, right? And so you want to deal with your wife according to the knowledge of who she is, and it all comes down to self control, right? And that's one thing brothers lack is self
You know, it's
control,
crazy.
being able to say, nah, I'm fine, I can do without, I'm good with what I got.
You know, it's crazy though. Um, this precept that you just pulled, low key, is a spiritual way of saying happy wife, happy life.
Oh, we got more precepts that say that for sure,
You know,
right?
I don't know if you have the Ecclesiasticus one about,
No, I ain't got Ecclesiastes.
yeah, just about, um, an evil woman, she could be a lot to you, bruh. She, if
And
you,
that's all I'm trying to
you
say,
can,
man.
you can make your wife evil just by simple decisions that you make, right? And that will ruin your life.
And that's all I'm trying to say here is that, man, I want you guys to have the best, the most successful relationships possible with the most peace, right? And that starts with knowing who you married, right? And honoring that knowledge of who she is and dealing with her according to that knowledge, right? Um, and that's really where it starts off, right? We talk about loving your wife as yourself, and, and this is, some brothers might think what I'm about to say is folly, right? But I'm just here to poke the practicality bear, right? And I know they wasn't thinking like this back in the day. I know, right? So don't get on me too bad. But me personally, right? One, I know my wife. She probably wouldn't do well with having a sister wife and things of that nature, right? It just wouldn't work. But what I would say is that me as a man, I can speak for myself when I say, if the rose was on the other hand, I wouldn't be able to deal with it either. If say if women can have multiple men, I would not be able to deal with that, bro. Like it's not happening. And people would say, "Well, that's because it's not intended like that." I understand that. I'm just putting myself in my wife's shoes for a second and loving her as I love myself, right? And I know, again, I speak as a man when I say that and I make that comparison. But even when you look at things like social media, right? I wouldn't want to take my wife's phone and find out she was liking all these dudes' photos, right? And they ain't got no shirts on and stuff like that. So why am I gonna like photos of women half naked and things like that, right? Why
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that if I know how it would make me feel? So why would I do that to her? It's all about having self control and dealing without, right?
You know,
For the greater good.
also too, man, there's many aspects that you could just better your relationship with your wife by dealing with her according to knowledge and also loving her as you love yourself. Everybody wants to be right. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes let your wife be right. You know, if y'all have conversations and you kind of take the wheel all the time as an authoritative figure in the house, which we are, but think about your wife. Be like, man, if I love her like I love myself, I enjoy being right from time to time. So weigh out your weigh out your conversations. Some of them you can let your wife win. You know what I'm saying? Because not to say it's stroking their ego, but it's letting them know that you're invested in a two-part relationship, right? When they teach you in sales, if you can get somebody nodding their head and you agree with them, right? They're 9 times out of 10 likely to, even when we're out on the street corner, right? And we're evangelizing. If we can get a complete stranger to nod their head and be like, yeah, and agree to something, right? And then if we nod our head and tell them that, yeah, you are right, now they feel like they're being heard and they stay longer, right? These things help prolong the relationship, especially when um as it says, the person you're dealing with is a weaker vessel, right? And that weaker vessel, man, there's plenty of lessons and plenty of breakdowns on whether it's spiritual or physical or emotional or whatever. But nonetheless, it says what it says, and we need to take account of that, right?
Hey man, it's like this, man. You want to respect and honor who you're with as much as possible, bro. Because a lot of y'all got the spirit of I'm gonna do what I want, and she just got to deal with it, right? Not understanding that, hey man, a lot of times, especially when you read the Bible, it ends up in situations like a Diary of a Mad Black Woman, right, where the man is left to be taken care of by the wife, and a lot of y'all gonna get treated like that, like old girl was treating old dude in the tub when he was paralyzed, right? Understand, man, and have that in the back of your head. I need to treat this woman with honor because one of these days she might be changing my diaper, right? One of these days she might be taking care of me. One of these days she might be feeding me, right? I might not be able to feed myself and be dependent on her. And God forbid she caused me to miss a meal because of how I used to treat her, right? You know what I'm saying? A lot of us get a big head thinking that yeah we're the prize, but a lot of us get the big head and end up SOL, right? And I've seen it happen a lot of times where brothers had it all going on, and because they got the big head, didn't really have any self control, a lack of communication, didn't really deal with their women according to knowledge, and now they're kind of going through the worst part of their life. When at the end of the day, man, if you treat who you chose to marry according to the knowledge of that person, a lot of times that's where peace will come in, right?
Con. If I can add too, um, I want to say, man, and this is for a lot of men out here too. You got to consider like this, man. And we talked about this at camp a few times, but men got to start, considering treating their women like they treat the precious things that they possess in life. You know what I'm saying? Like your car. Like we see Jake all the time downtown Atlanta or downtown Macon, rolling in spiders or rolling in them old school cars with the windows down and the music blasting. You can tell they didn't put money into it. You know what I'm saying? I see Jake. A lot of Jake love their cars like that, man. These show cars or they build these cars for like racing, and that's you treat that car sometimes better than you treat the women that you deal with. So brothers got to start treating their women like, what I'm saying, the vehicles that they love, if even better, because we see our people love to have that type of stuff in life, right? They take care of it because they know it adds value to them in the eyes of men. You know what I'm saying? It brings them peace and joy. Well, if you are one of these men that have these possessions, whether it be like a PS5 or a car, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it may be, whether it be shoes, whether it be jewelry, you got to treat these women like these possessions. And I'm not talking about as if, what I'm saying, they're replaceable, but treat them as if they're not expendable. Invest more than, what I'm saying, sexual intimacy into your woman, right? Because brothers be thinking that they could just have I guess you could say the bedroom aspect and fulfill and satisfy women there, but it gives them leeway to do other things. It's so many ways that you can please a woman, and you got to think about you're capable of doing these things because I see the way that you treat, the vehicle that you got sitting in your driveway, that you got that 84 Cutlass or you got that 84, Impala, box Chevy. You bought it, you're saying, or you got a body for it. You're going to put a new engine in it, new camshaft, new fuel injectors. You're going to get a digital dash. You're going to put the leather seats, the chrome 26s on it, man. This is how you need to think about investing in your woman. And you do that, what I'm saying, with little things every day, like the brothers is saying. Sometimes it's okay to submit yourself and say, you know what, you right. Sometimes it's okay to rub her back. Sometimes it's okay to rub her feet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So you just
man.
got to do the little things.
And the brothers, both the brothers are saying that. I just want to add on there, man. sometimes it's not about letting your woman be right. Sometimes she is right. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes she actually is right. And we got to take the time to actually consider that possibility as well, right? The brother brought up box Chevys, man, but while he was bringing them up, a couple things came to my mind. People are more loyal to their barbers than their wives, man, right? I'm talking about, I'm speaking of myself. I got a barber that I've been going to since what, 2016, right? And he may take my hairline back one time, but I'm gonna be back the next couple weeks for another haircut from him. I'm not gonna switch up on him, and that's a lot of brothers too. A lot of us are more loyal to our barbers and allow more room for error for our barbers than our women, right? We don't go. My barber should understand if I go to another barber, man. If I go to another barber and come back to him in about 2 months, he should understand, right? We don't go like that. We stay loyal to him. We don't say, "Oh, he got to deal with it." You know what I'm saying? We don't say that. Matter of fact, more brothers are more loyal to sports teams than they women, right? Your sports team could be super, super trash. Ain't won since the 70s, since the 80s, right? And you still ride or die for that team, right? Switching up. Not You're not being a bandwagon. You're not going to get other teams, right? I'm a Lakers fan, but I'm also a Celtics fan too, right? You're not racking up multiple teams. You stay loyal to that one, right? It's okay to stay loyal to that one, is all I'm saying, right? Um, Contrary to popular belief, you're not seen as weak because you chose to just stay with one, right? Paul goes on and he says, you know, I wish all y'all would stay as me and not marry one, not marry at all, because when you marry one, right, it takes away from your time of serving the Most High, right? And so when you look at it in that lens, it's like, man, Paul is really saying one is too much, right? Because he wants all his time to be devoted to Christ. So if he's saying that about one, think about if you got two or three, right? Because at the end of the day, you still got multiple women that you got to deal with that's going to be occupying your time, right? Not saying it can't be done. I'm sure it can be done. But then you got to also examine yourself. Are you a type of person to be able to get that done and still devote time to the Most High? Do you devote enough time to the Most High as it is, and you only got one wife, right? These are things to consider. Can somebody read Romans 12 and 18 for me?
I'll read it. Romans chapter 12 and verse 18. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men.
Yeah, man. Like, now this precept ain't, people don't read this and think this should be applied to their wives. This should be applied to your wives. It says, if it be at all possible, right, to live peaceably with your wife. And it shouldn't be a hard thing to want to live peaceably with your wife, right? It said, if it be at all possible, please live peaceably with all men. And when it says all men, it's talking about everybody, bro, right? And so if you have it within you, meaning if you got the self-control, the discipline, the patience, right, to live peaceably with your wife, but you got to understand what it's going to take to live peaceably with your wife. Again, it goes back to maturity, not doing what makes her tick, right? The things that you know. Now, of course, man, in relationships, grace and mercy is reverence. When it comes to things like you do something, she gets mad, she explains why she's mad. Oh, I didn't know that irritated you. Same thing like we doing with the Most High, right? You don't know something's a sin. When you find out, you stop doing it. Same thing with your wife. That's why it says you like Christ loved the church, right? The same relationship like we got with the Most High, right? We find out, oh, it's a sin or that God doesn't like us doing X, Y, and Z. We stop. Same thing when you're in a relationship. You stop. And again, not all things that are lawful is expedient. So when you look at that, right, you understand your wife, what makes her tick is that you be staring at girls a little too long. You be liking girls' pictures all the time, right? You constantly on the prowl for looking for a second wife all the time, right? You you know what I'm saying? If you know that makes her tick, right? You're supposed to stop doing it. And I speak as a man because I ain't trying, because a lot of brothers look at me and be like, well, I ain't in sin, so you can't tell me to stop doing it. I can't tell you to do nothing, brother. I'm just trying for you guys to have a more peaceful life. Because I see a lot of brothers out here now that are kind of struggling now. You know what I'm saying? More than I can count on my hand, man. And it's getting bad, and it's all, and a lot of times where I think it stems from is that brothers, they get counsel maybe from one person or something, right? If that at all. Sometimes they don't get counsel at all, right? I know some brothers that probably don't because they think they got it all figured out, right? And they make these decisions because of the counsel that they're telling themselves is, "Oh, I can do it. It's lawful. It's not a sin, right? I'm still a righteous man. She just got to deal with it. And if she don't want to deal with it, to hell with her." And then it comes to that, and it's really to hell with her. She leaves, and now you kind of left empty-handed, right? You got nothing to show for it, you know.
Yeah, the Bible is not coming into this knowledge of the truth. We shouldn't look at the Bible as, all right, let me go through it to see what I can and what I can't do. Right? That's not what being a doctor of the law is, right? When you look at lawyers in today's world, they study the law, but lawyers aren't criminals. They're not trying to find, I mean, they do find loopholes to defend people, but they're not trying to find loopholes so that they can live that life of trying to find loopholes. They're trying to be law-abiding citizens, right? And 9 times out of 10, they live in an easy life, right? When you start trying to look for loopholes and things of that nature, you start to become a non-genuine person.
Right,
Now
man.
you now there's a motive behind everything you're doing instead of you just living life. A lot of us, if we came into this truth and just simmered down a little bit, right, and understand that our forefathers and our foremothers were real people, right? A lot of times you look at their situations, they wasn't thinking like how we thinking, right? They wasn't just looking at their situations, right? Look at Jacob. Jacob was in love with a girl that he did not get at first. And then he loved her so much he had to get her, right? And then he ended up with two, right? Sarah and Abraham, they grew old together. They were old, right? And they just thought it was impossible because many of us will think the same thing in 2024, that it's impossible to have a baby at that age, right? Not saying that, you shouldn't, you know, what I'm saying is the law is not what we should look at for
Right,
things
man.
we
It's a
can do, right? But the law, it lets us know if we went too far, right? But just live life, you know what I'm saying? And don't look for the thing, don't look for things that will please your flesh within the law. Just live life, and if it comes to you, reflect on the law and ask yourself, is this lawful? Is this a sin or not? Right? Because a lot of times when you go looking for something, right, you are turning a blind eye to something else that you're not paying attention to, right? So just be open. Have your eyes all the way open, man, spiritual and physical. If that makes sense. I know I kind of got on a little tangent, but
Yeah,
yeah.
man. So it's like the brother's trying to say, man. The Bible is a skeleton, man. It's a guideline, right? You look through it, look at things that are lawful, but you also, like we talked about so far, you also got to understand whether them things are expedient or not, right? So there's a saying called there's multiple ways to skin a cat. A lot of us choose the the hard way, right? And sometimes the hard way is, or the less expedient way that's pleasing to our flesh, ends up being the hard way, and we don't see it at first, right? A lot of us, man, just got, I don't know what it is, bro. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of that stuff can be dealt with by alternative alternative things, man. Right? You getting tired of your woman, man. I don't know what's going on. Tell her to dye her hair or something, man. Get a new look going. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know, man, but figure it out. You have a sexual urge problem, right? You might just need to lay with your woman more or something, man.
And
You know,
also too, since we just having a dialogue and a discussion, um, another thing is, actually have conversations with your wife. Sometimes I have to tell myself, because fellas, man, fellas are in multiple group chats and group texts and DMs and stuff with other men, calls and lives and all that, right? We always talking to men, but sometimes when you're out and about and something comes to mind that you want to, have a conversation about, if you can save it until you get home, and then talk in the bed with your wife, because conversation brings about relationship, right? A lot of people's relationships are dying nowadays outside the truth and inside the truth because they don't be having just simple conversations, right? I
right,
know a lot of couples nowadays are binge watching shows, um, and I'm not totally against it, because sometimes when you binge watch show, you might have opinions about certain things that happen inside the show, and you and your wife can have conversations, right? These are how relationships grow, and this is how you get to know one another, right? But a lot of times, a lot of brothers, man, they don't love their wife like they love they self,
right.
right?
I want to say too, man, you're not a weak man if you go to your wife and you go to her and you talk to her about your interest for a second wife. She kind of bucks up at the idea, right? And you're not a weak man for saying, okay, I understand. You know, it's not something that you can deal with. I won't do it. You're not weak for doing that. But I feel like a lot of brothers, they had a conversation with their women, and then they kind of get turned off by their women's having a problem with it, and they buck up and they try to pursue it anyway. Well, I was just trying to let you know that that's what I'm interested in, and it might happen in the future, so you just gonna have to deal with it, right? Again, man, let's read this real quick.
Ecclesiastes 9:9. Live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of the life.
It says live what?
Live joyfully with the wife
You
whom
can't
thou
live joyfully with your wife when you're putting that pressure and that stress on her, bruh, for doing things she's not gonna be okay with. And when I say that, man, I don't want y'all to because it sounds like you're catering to the woman, right? People, when I say stuff like, brother, you can't do stuff your wife not gonna be okay with. I'm not saying it like that, man. I'm saying it from a standpoint of having a level of consideration and compassion, and and honoring the knowledge of who you marry, right? When I say that, live joyfully. It's impossible for you to live joyfully with your wife when when she's constantly vexed about certain things that you do that she just feels like she has no say so at all, right? She might not have no say so, but how much more compassionate do you look if you take her opinions and the way she feels into consideration? Then both of you guys can live joyfully. Keep reading for me.
right. And next thing you know, she thinking, man, my husband's so great. My husband, I just love my husband. He just so great. He always thinks about me. I think other women need my husband too. And she might come to you and be like, hey, I got this sister. She needs. Yeah, I'm just playing with y'all, but
One thing about the Most High, man, is He orchestrates everything. So whether you're supposed to end up with one wife or two or three, you're gonna end up with all the wives that that you're supposed to end up with. You know what I'm saying? Whether you go pursue them or not. A lot of times you read in the scriptures, like the brother was saying, a lot of times these men didn't even pursue these multiple women. They just fell in their lap. So and it even goes as far as to say for David when he slept with Bathsheba that, in the parable, it says, man, God gave you all of these women, all these wives. Why did you have to go take somebody else's? Right? Meaning, man, if it's meant for you, man, God's gonna put that second, that third wife in your lap, right? But until then, man, deal with wisdom. Keep reading for me.
Right. Which he had given thee under the sun, all the days of thy vanity.
All the days of thy vanity. Everything is vanity, man. Right? All this stuff is gonna pass. Sex is gonna pass. Right? A lot of people don't understand that. There's gonna be a time where we're not even gonna be worrying about sex. We're just gonna be worrying about the Most High, right? And a lot of people can't even fathom that, right? But all these days are vanity, and they're short, right? These are short amount of days that we live. Why not live them to the fullest and live joyfully, right? Not just yourself, but your other half. Why not make it joyful for them too? Because you're supposed to love them as you love yourself, right? You wouldn't hurt yourself or you wouldn't vex yourself. So why are you vexing them? Right? Keep reading.
Right. All the days of thy vanity, for that is thy portion in this life, and in thy labor which thou takest under the sun.
Right, man. We gotta labor. Marriage is already hard as it is, right? Why make it harder? Relationship is already hard as it is. No relationship is gonna be perfect. You're gonna fight, you're gonna argue, but why make it harder? I'm just trying to help you guys out to get to the quickest point of a smooth ride as possible. And that comes with maturity, comes with consideration and compassion, right? And just having a sense of practicality of who you marry, not
Yeah,
who you
man.
wanted to marry, who you actually married.
Yeah, man. I like the fact that it says, for that is thy portion in this life, right? There's so many sisters that never find a husband. There's so many brothers that never get with a wife or can't find the right wife or whatever the case may be, right? But the Most High God, really, He said it was not good when Adam was alone. And I'm saying this because the Most High God looks at us as children. When you think about your children, if you have children now, right, you want them to live a life as a child, right? That's why it's always frowned upon when people say stuff like, oh, his childhood was taken from him, or her childhood was robbed from her. She didn't have a childhood, she had to grow up, right? Because you want to give your kid that childhood before they become adults and understand that there's bills that need to be paid. If you want to have fun, it costs. If you know what I'm saying, you want them to have that childhood. So the Most High God literally is telling us, enjoy your wife in this life, because after this life, I'm trying to tell you, it's all about the Most High God. We serving Him in the kingdom, right?
Right.
And we ain't gonna be thinking when we have our glorified bodies. We ain't gonna be thinking about, oh, I need sex. I need sex. Oh, I want to lay down with a woman. I want to lay down with a man. We're not gonna be thinking about all that. It's gonna be the Most High time. You feel me? For eternity, and we're gonna be saying holy, holy, holy all the day long. So He's saying, I want my children to enjoy this life as much as possible, and the way to do that is with your wife.
Take advantage of it take advantage of it as long as you can, right? Instead of spending time trying to convince her and y'all not seeing eye to eye, think about all that time y'all are wasting when y'all could be living peacefully or joyfully. Just if you would just go ahead and say, I understand, and listen to your wife when she says, man, I might not ever be okay with it. I might not. I mean, I can. She might say, I can try. Even if she says, I can try, take that. Listen to me now. Take that as, don't do it, bro. Because her trying is always gonna end up bad, bro. First of all, she's not gonna be able to feel like she has a say so. She's not gonna feel like she can be herself. You're not even gonna get the same woman that you married, bro. You know what I'm saying? And me personally, I speak as a man. I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing that my wife is walking around feeling like she got to hold her tongue for the rest of her life and act different and out her personality for the rest of her life because of the situation I put her in. I couldn't live with that, me personally.
And it's crazy just knowing that, as a man, I'm in multiple group chats and stuff like that, and we talk about real stuff. But from time to time, I do see women on like Facebook Live or Instagram Live in the truth, or on Twitter giving their feelings. And a lot of women, in the truth and outside the truth, they can't go to sleep at night. They cry at night. They feel insecure. They feel like their husband doesn't love them, right? They feel like they're not in a fair relationship.
Right.
Right?
Somebody get that
Hold
for
up,
me.
hold up, hold up. hold up. And the thing about it is that's not what marriage was for. You know what I'm saying? I know we always talk about how great of a people we are and we're special unto the Lord and who's like Jacob and we're Israelites, right? But guess what? The Most High God is greater than us. But with that being said, he still makes us feel great. We go to the scriptures that he provided for us to make ourselves feel great, right? And for you to rob that from your wife, right? And she don't feel great being her in y'all's relationship, guess what? You don't love her as you love yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because you think you something, right? As a man, you think you something. So you should want your wife to think she's something too.
One thing I will say, man, is that, man, a lot of people don't understand how insecurities can cause confusion, contention, and all of that for a long time, right? And a lot of brothers and sisters, man, cause their partner to be insecure by the actions and the decisions that they choose to make. And one thing I will say, man, when somebody's insecure about something, bro, you know what I'm saying? That's a strong spirit. And it's a strong spirit to get up off you, like the brother was saying, right? And I got a precept for
Hey,
that.
hey, before you read that precept too, just to uh, further the I guess you could say wisdom given, man, you got to think about it like this, bruh. Sometimes we come into the truth, the knowledge of the truth. I think it comes from, like, I can only speak for myself. Like, I grew up around women. You know what I'm saying? My dad died when I was young, so I grew up around women, man, and women for the majority of my childhood dominated everything in my life. You know what I'm saying? My mom, my grandmothers. I got four older sisters. I'm the youngest. My brother wasn't like, you know what I'm saying, as prevalent as all of my sisters were, but uh, you can just say like women had a lot of influence on me as a young man. And when you come into the knowledge of the truth and you see how like there's actually order and structure and that, you know what I'm saying, the man is supposed to lead the house. Sometimes brothers can get overzealous. You know what I'm saying? Brothers can be a bit too much because, man, for so many years you live in a society where, you know what I'm saying, the woman is pushed to the forefront, and then you come into this knowledge and see how there is structure and you can fulfill your role as the leader. Sometimes, man, you get to that point where you start, like the brother say, just start, hey, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and you just got to deal with it. And that's not the spirit you should be in. You know what I'm saying? And I think that sometimes if you're a brother that feels that way, you know what I'm saying, or you may have grew up similar to myself, and you feel yourself, you know, coming into the truth and just being a little bit too much when it comes to dealing with women, you just got to take a step back. You know, take a step back and realize that it's not a sin, like the brother was saying. It's not a sin to be a good husband unto your wife. You know what I'm saying? It's not a sin to listen to your wife. It's not a sin for your wife to have emotions and feelings, and it's not a sin
Right.
to it's not a sin to also, you know, for your wife to be like you, to treat her as if she's on the same level as you. Not saying that, you know what I'm saying, spiritually you're equal, but it more so in a sense that you're one flesh. You know what I'm saying? If she hurt, you hurt. And if you make her hurt, like the Ock just said, you can't love her as yourself. So brothers just gotta, you know, examine yourself daily. Examine you daily. Don't examine your wife and tell your wife what she do wrong all the time. You know what I'm saying? And then think that you're, as the man, you can be do no wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's not how it is, man. You got to step
Right.
back and think about like, what can I do as a husband to maybe help take some of the stress that I put on my wife off. You
Yeah,
know?
Right,
brothers
man.
be giving their wife some news or an opinion, and their wife might cry or be upset. The Lord's not dealing with your attitude, right? You gotta understand, man. Everybody has their mind. Everybody has a mind. Everybody has a mental state, and everybody has an opinion. Even though your opinion is the final say, you know, after you weigh out all the options, that don't mean that she never had an opinion, right? And she might have really felt a certain way about her opinion. If she feels upset, let her be upset. Don't poke at her. Don't, you know,
Like the brother
belittle
said.
her. Don't try to pull up scriptures to tell her why how she feeling is evil, right? Let that emotion pass, right? Don't beat a dead horse, like Job say, how right are forcible words. Don't be the dead horse, right? For the sake of putting her in her place, let the emotion pass, then bring it up later
I
and
agree.
ask. and have the conversation of what do we learn from this, or what do you think about transpired, and have the conversation after her emotions pass, right? That's giving honor to your wife. When you beat her down like a dead horse, right? She can't defend herself, and you just throwing scriptures and making her feel like she going to the lake of fire. That's not helping the situation. It's not. So let it pass and then deal with her according to knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
kind.
Like the brother said, you know, it's not a sin for your woman to have emotions, man. Right? We understand that they're gonna be emotional creatures. You know what I'm saying? And then I like what the brother was getting into. It's another thing. It's another thing to bring up is the fact that not everybody is meant to have power, right? Not you grow up and a lot of brothers saying, "Man, I just can't wait to be king," like Lion King. But a lot of brothers don't deserve that power. A lot of brothers don't. To be quite frank, a lot of brothers don't deserve one wife. And when I say that is because, man, when you get any type of rulership, and we know we're supposed to rule over our women and our household, when you get any type of rulership, you got to understand you got a lot of power, and there's a lot of things open that you can do because you are king. But a good king is gonna look at it and have self-discipline and self-control to not do things that are not expedient, even though he can do it and nobody gonna stop him. Right? That makes the whole difference of a good king or really just a good husband, right? Knowing that I can do this, right? No one gonna tell me, no one can stop me from doing this, but I'm not gonna do it because as a wise king, right, I'm looking out for the best interests of those who I rule over, right? I'm not really looking for my interest. I'm looking over for the best interest of those who I rule over. Just like a shepherd, a herder of sheep. I'm looking over the interest of my flock, of the sheep, right? I'm looking over the best interest of this cattle, right? I might can get away with not feeding them for a day, but I want to just make sure that everybody gets to eat every day, just like I get to eat every day, right? So I'm gonna take that time and I'm gonna feed them, right? It's the same thing, man. To whom much is given, much is required. You know what I'm saying? Higher positions come with more responsibility, not for yourself, but for those that you're over, right? This is somebody read this for me.
First Corinthians.
Con. This is First Corinthians 8:13, and it says, "Wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend."
Right, man. This is Paul, and I'm just bringing this up as an example. Paul was talking about not being a stumbling block. Paul was understanding that some people think meat is unlawful, right? Some people, we can get into it, but we're gonna keep it on this topic, right? So he's saying, hey, look, man, some brothers think this about this, that, and the third about meat. You know what I'm saying? And so when I'm around them, I just won't eat it, right? Because I don't want to cause them to offend. I don't want to get them riled up. I don't want to vex them. If it's within my control and I can control it, I might as well just don't do it. I'm just not gonna do it, right? And that comes with maturity. That comes with real love for your brothers and your sisters, real love for your wife, right? When you can look at it, if check this out, right? I'm not trying to add to the text or nothing, but if polygyny make my wife to offend, I will I will not collect more women while the world standeth. That's okay. That's okay, brother. That is okay. Lest I make my wife to offend, right? That is okay, right? And I love this example. I love this example that Paul is giving right now. He's giving it about me, but it goes with everything in life. It goes with everything in life. Sometimes you can take the I don't know if you call it the high road, right? You can take the back seats to some things, for the greater good, for the conscience of your brother, for the conscience of your wife. I'm constantly doing things for the conscience of my wife, for the conscience of my daughter, right? I don't have to do certain things. I can do it how I want to, but it comes into play when you're doing the real love comes into play when you're doing stuff for the conscience of somebody else to not be a stumbling block for them. so they can live as peaceful as possible. If at all possible, it's in me. I'm gonna do it. That's what it boils down to, right? And I got one more precept because the brother Azrael caused me to remember it. We're gonna go to the Apocrypha for this one, right? The book of, and this is actually a longer video than I expected. I thought it was gonna be about 30 minutes. It's already at an hour, right? But this is good stuff. Ecclesiastes 26 and 6.
Sirach 26 and 6. The brother said verse number 3 as well. Um, it says, but a grief of heart and sorrow is a woman that is jealous over another woman, and a scourge of the tongue which communicated with all.
Right. The grief of the heart of the sorrow is a woman that is jealous. The grief of a heart of the heart and
Yeah.
sorrow.
'Cause
Why
she
would
finna
you want
think
your
shit.
woman to deal with grief and sorrow for the rest of her life? Right? I know it's lawful, bro. Bro, listen to me when I say, right? If you could live with multiple women and all y'all live in a utopia, man, I pray that everybody that wants that can do it, go ahead and do it. But if you already married a woman that is not on that type of time, if she's not on that type of time, why would you want her to cause her all that grief and sorrow for the rest of her life? That insecurities that you breed up when you double tap that girl's photo, right?
That's really, and I really believe that's talking about the grief of a man. I feel like the grief of heart is from the sorrow of a woman's jealousy, because when a woman get jealous, man, ain't no hurt like the woman hurt.
Hey,
You know what I'm
hell
saying?
hath no fury like a woman scorned.
And it says a woman that's over another woman.
If
Keep
there's
in mind, bro,
anything,
you gonna have a favorite. You gonna have a main. Let's not act like they all gonna be equal. Jacob had a main. Jacob had somebody that he loved more than Leah. He loved Rachel more than Leah. And so that's gonna cause strife right there. But you got to be mature enough to have that conversation and be real and have a sense of practicality of that, and not be like, brother, you going off because ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying nothing's wrong with it, bro. It works for some people. Does it work for you though? That's what I'm saying.
and that could be jealous. You know, she could be jealous. You could think it's not even nothing that serious, right? You know, you could have, I don't know, some girl could have commented on your picture or something, and now your wife is jealous, right? You got to make your wife feel at ease, brother. That's not simping, right? But just correcting um, certain behaviors,
Right.
and trying to be and trying to be in control of the situation to where she doesn't feel like she's not important or special. Like I said, the Most High God, through His Word, He makes us feel special all the time with
Bro,
everything that He writes about us.
we was talking about this yesterday. It's not a sin, bro. You not look that weak, bro. When it comes to social media, bro, it's not the end of the world if you gotta unfollow, if you gotta block a girl, bro, for the sanctity of
Hey,
your relationship and your wife, bro.
right?
Go ahead and do it.
Let's think about the precepts about us, right? He's known us and no one else. He puts us above all the other nations, right? We're a special people unto Himself,
He'll kill and cut off anybody for us.
right? Think about that. Now, do you treat your wife like that? You know, that's something that you just pause the video and ask, do I treat my wife like that?
Man,
Or
it's pretty.
do I make it seem like the other girls got a chance to be equal with her? Do I make it seem like she's not that special? Do I make it seem like she's not you know what I'm saying? Like the scriptures that the Most High wrote about us is how we're supposed to make our wives feel you know, about themselves.
Right.
Right. But if your wife is constantly sorrowful, if your wife is constantly crying in her bed and she's constantly on FaceTime and in group chats with girls talking bad about her husband, about her how her husband don't make her feel loved, guess what? You're not doing your job. I'm not gonna lie, that's not simping. You just not being a good husband.
Right, man. It's so crazy because the Most High, he has scriptures where he's alluding to stuff like um him you know, for lack of better terms or lack of better phrases, him wishing he would have picked another nation. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, man, he doesn't choose nobody else but us, right? The Most High could have more than people, one nation, that he's dealing with if he chose to, right? But he chose to be loyal unto one. You know what I'm saying? The brother brought out Ecclesiastes 26:3. Right? I wish I would have brought this out earlier too. If one of the brothers could read this.
A good wife is a good portion, which shall be given in the portion of them that fear the Lord.
Right, man. Saying and I feel like this goes along with what I was saying earlier about man. God is going to put what if you was meant to have 2 or 3 women, right? God's gonna put it in your life, right? If that's your portion, it's gonna happen, right? Rest assured, it's going to happen if you just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? A lot of times, a lot of guys that end up SOL, it just wasn't their lot because they're not even compassionate with one wife. What makes you think you're gonna be compassionate with 2 or 3? What makes you think you're gonna be considerate to 2 or 3? You're not even considerate to one, right? These are things of self-examination that you got to do, man. The one precept that we brought out today that I really liked was the second one. I'm gonna read that. We're gonna read that one more time, right? What was that? I think it was. Yeah. First Peter. That's the one.
Right.
First Peter.
Also, to that verse 3 that we just read, too, you gotta think it's given in portion of them that fear the Lord. If you constantly having to get on your wife, if you constantly having to, you know, put scriptures in your wife's face to make her feel bad, and you constantly, are irritated with how your wife is reacting and acting, it's probably because you don't fear the Lord. You know what I'm saying? It's probably because she's a reflection of you. And like I said, when you hone in on one thing, you turn a blind eye to the other. And a lot of times, man, you turn that blind eye to the things that you're doing wrong spiritually, right? First Peter 3:7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered.
Right, man. I love this one because man, it all boils down to when you don't take this stuff into consideration, man, that we've been talking about in this live, it all boils down to, bro, your prayer is not being answered. Your prayer is hitting the ceiling and not going further than your ceiling at home, right? Your prayers are being hindered because you're not taking this stuff into consideration. A lot of us find ourselves in these situations and being upset with our women, right? And praying that the Most High, gives our women a different spirit and stuff like that. When you only want that to happen for your own self gain. A lot of us end up going through situations where we end up losing our precious rubies, right? Our ribs, and it's because we didn't take the careful consideration of her at the time, and our prayers are still being hindered because we haven't examined ourselves, right? So I encourage a lot of you brothers to understand, to grow in maturity in your relationship. Be practical of what you have and who you have, right? And reach out to multiple brothers, right? Don't just keep it to yourself and think that you got it all figured out and you can make the best decision for you and your family, man. That's cool, fine, and dandy. But reach out to brothers, man. Get second opinions, third opinions. Reach out to people that has second and third wives, because a lot of brothers be reaching out to brothers that only got one wife or no wife, Reach out to a brother that you know got a second or third wife and ask them how's it going, how they went about it, right? Or just reach out to brothers with good relationships in general, right? See what their advice to you might be, right? And that would be my advice to you. This has been a Freestyle Friday, man. We just kind of freestyled it, and you know, nothing was a commandment of God. It was all like Paul said, "I speak as a man." It was just some food for thought, some wisdom on practicality and self control, what you can control, right? Just so you can think about it, right? But I got nothing else. Any brothers got anything else? And like the brother said, man, poor leadership. Poor. That's what it boils down to is poor leadership. A lot of people weren't meant to lead. Don't know what it takes to lead. Don't have the communication to lead, right? Any brothers got anything else?
Hey man, Michael Jackson said it best. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? Like the brother saying, you want a happy life. Hey, best way for your woman to take care of you is you take care of her, man. You know,
Right. Right.
brothers want their wives to cook, but don't want to go to the store to get what she need to cook. You know what I'm saying? Like you just gotta examine yourself each and every day, man, as a man, and like the brother B More said, as a leader. You know,
Right.
if you sucked at leading anything else in life, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you was the captain of the football team and y'all went 0-10 and the locker room was out of control. Maybe you was the president of whatever club you was president of in college and the club failed. Well, you got to think when you get a wife and children, man, examine yourself because if you ain't did nothing right in your life, you have to lead your family right. You know what I'm saying? And it ain't always gonna look good. It ain't always gonna be hot. You know, but the best thing that you could do for yourself is examine yourself and be real with yourself, right? And if you're a brother that struggles with doing that, man, you shouldn't be seeking no second, third, fourth wife. You know what I'm saying? Talking about how kings did it in the scriptures. Yeah, they did, and they was able to handle it. But you obviously struggle with even taking care of yourself. So get your chicken right, like my boy Marshawn Lynch said. But with
Right,
that,
bro.
man,
And you know, man, I'll say this last thing, man. It's not a bad thing to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, right? I'm not just talking about brothers. Do it for your wife, man. Put yourself in your wife's shoes sometime, right? A lot of us are afraid to do that because, well, you know, I can do more than she can. And again, it's not a commandment, but man, I promise your life would go a whole lot smoother if you did so. And I put myself in my wife's shoes, and I say, man, how would I feel if my wife was doing this? How would I feel if my wife did this, right? And if the answer is no, I wouldn't like that, then I'm probably not gonna do it myself. But that's just the love that I have for my wife and treating her as I would treat myself, loving her as I would love myself, right? And nothing's wrong with that ideology, right?
hey man, brother Denal said experiences.
You were breaking up on that one. Hello? What the heck? but yeah, man. That's been a good lesson. That was a good lesson, man. I hope you guys were edified. I hope it jogged some people's minds, man, to start thinking outside of the box as we grow in this truth, man, and get away from robotic actions and robotic thinking, and we start thinking about compassion and actual love, right? Um, Want to say Shabbat Shalom. Want to say, man, we'll be in Atlanta tomorrow for a unity camp with the Anointed House of Saints. Um, a lot of minor camps going to be out there, man. We're going to have a good time. If you guys want to pull up, I think it's going to be on the Beltline, right? I think it's going to be on the Beltline, and I think it's going to start at 4 o'clock. If you guys want to join us, man, we'll be down there fellowshipping with the brothers, having a good old time on the Shabbat. But without further ado, man, we give all honor and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We do so by way of His Son, who is an instrument of salvation for the nation. Um, Remember, if you're not helping to gather, you're helping to scatter, right? So if you're not gathering, you're scattering. Shout out to the book of Luke, with that wonderful phrase, kept it plain and simple, right? If you're not gathering, you're scattering. And we'll see you guys next time, man. Hopefully we can get on Wednesday like normally scheduled, but we'll see. But I'm Brother Denal,
That's right, yeah.
and on behalf of Brother Yeshaya, we say Shalom.